Hello, 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 ladies and gelatins. Welcome. Welcome to a new stream, a new day, a new month. It's literally the 1st of June. Cool. The weather is sometimes summer, sometimes spring. That's where we're at. I mean, technically, it's not legally summer until the 21st, anyways, which is also the longest day of the year. Same new month, same game, but it is bonus content. It's the bonus content, so it's a little different. It's a little bit is a little bit different. I mean, it is what it is. But hello, Kira. Hello, Alangu. Hello, Tutu. Hero 2. I forgot to get myself eating. So it is what it is for now. I'll get some later. Yeah, weekend. So I did actually get like kind of sick on the early part of the weekend. It got better later, but like overall weekend was nice, but it certainly could have been better if I'd had more energy. But hey, I decided I needed at least a little bit of time off, so I took off tomorrow, and it's like, oh, not tomorrow, Wednesday. And it's like, oh, that's one day, but also then on Thursday we have holiday, which is cool. And then on Friday we have like the half-day flexible hour thing, which I'm definitely going to do. So that's fine, and honestly, generally speaking, no one really bothers other people on Fridays anyways. And then on Monday, so turns out in Poland, if you give blood, you get a day off. Like, it's like a legal requirement, but they have to give you a day off if you donate blood, which is like the coolest thing. I, for a lot of reasons, have never actually donated blood before. So, but I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna sign up for that because listen, for another day off, I'm so down. Especially since like apparently I really need it to recover life. But also I read some. Okay, I watched a YouTube video which quoted some studies. Let me be real. I did not read those studies personally, but like apparently, if you don't get at least like 4 days off in a row, like you need 4 consecutive days off in a row before like you actually recover from stress from work, before you actually are able to like think about like vacation or like other things other than just recovering. So we'll see if it'll matter with we'll see if the half Friday will take me out of that or if it'll all count in the end, but fingers crossed, right? Should be okay. Seems worth it. Yeah. So I also am not good with needles, but and like I said, I've never donated blood. So it's like kind of a bigger needle than usual and probably will hurt, but I don't care. I want to take off so bad. So here's hoping that goes well. As in, like, here's hoping they're not, like, finding some reason to be like, no, we can't take your blood. Which, like, could happen because I don't have low blood pressure, but I'm, like, right on the edge of low blood pressure a lot of the time. So they might look at that and be like, I don't know. We don't trust you. But at the same time, I'm, like, universal donor. Well, okay, almost universal donor because I'm O positive. But, like, that's exactly the type of people who should be donating more blood. And if it's for days off, I can do that. Just can't do it too often. Oh yes, they do also give you chocolate, I hear, but I feel like they have to give you some kind of snack everywhere. I feel like everywhere gives you snack. In the US, they give you money. But like, I'd rather have a day off. That's kind of more money than they could possibly give me. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. And the problem is that, like, I've spent a lot of weekends lately not being able to relax because of sickness or like almost sickness or just like other stuff going on in life or the hackathon or whatever. And then just like, so there's just a lot of days and a lot of weekends where it's like I didn't really get to have the weekend. I remember Oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's... Yeah, no, that's like, it's one of the worst types to be, but it's the worst type to, or sorry, it's the best type to give blood. Like, yeah, that you're the universal donor. That's amazing. But yes, no, it's not amazing when it comes to, you know, actually needing blood. So thank goodness, yes. Yeah, amazing. Great. Anyways, today's also probably going to be our stream again, just because, yeah, I don't think I'm clear covered overall. But yeah, it is what it is. We got Kanan. We got this story. It's been a good time so far. I'm enjoying it. Just want to make sure I don't overdo it so that I can lay down again. Yeet. All right, back to Kanan. Immediately starting with gunshots. Great start, love it. Apart from the determination I already possessed, I knew I needed to hone myself. My growing skills as a soldier were necessary for me to achieve my goals, and more basically, necessary for me to even survive my goals. In the beginning, that was all I really thought about. And once I'd become an orphan, I resolved not to rely on anyone. My trauma wouldn't let me trust anyone else. And yet eventually, I wound up feeling a sense of trust for this man who found me and committed 2 years to training me. It was something I'd never thought I'd feel again. There probably isn't anyone around with the patience to train a complete novice. I wasn't qualified, but wound up sticking with you. Sam was always more a freelancer than soldier. He belonged to a liberation movement, but he made his living taking on jobs as a reliable mercenary. Liberation movement refers here to the Palestinian Liberation Movement, a political movement formed in response to the conflict arising between the newly resettled Jewish people and the pre-existing Arab Palestinian residents, advocating freedom of the Palestinian people from Israeli rule. There had been a long recurring cycle of terrorism and revolt followed by periods of peace, but to this day, that issue remains fundamentally unresolved. Y'all, this is a game from like early 2000s. It is still heavily relevant. It's kind of horrifying. Hello, Sticks. Did I eat anything but yes, actually I had jelly today. I had some Jello. I mean, not name brand Jello, gelatin. Just say flavored Jello. But listen, I've gone my whole life just calling it Jello. That's a brand name. What the heck do people call it if not Jello? I never thought about it. What do the British call it? Do they also have Jello? I don't know. What about the Australians? Now I have no idea. Either way, like a gelatin, just call it gelatin, I guess. But like when I think of gelatin, for some reason, I think of like no flavor, but like this one was mango passion fruit flavor. So that was pretty solid. Yes, also that too. 4 vacation days, like, yeah, if you travel and stuff, yeah, you lose a lot of time for that. Yes, very good. Are they Jello a little bit? So I can't no, because it is a completely different kind of Jello, and I am not a food. I am not food. I am not delicious. I am shape-shifty. Jello all the same, right? Like Band-Aids. Some people call it Kleenex. I'll call it tissues, but like if someone says, can you get me a Kleenex? I'm not gonna be like, do you mean a tissue? I'm not gonna actually someone about something that is also super common. Gosh, what other brand names do we use? Vaseline, a brand name? So, oh yeah, a Polish one. If you're looking for like Xerox copies of things, if you want to make a scan or a photocopy, it is Xero for Xerox instead of like that. But people do still say Xerox. Yeah, Google for searching online. Oh, that's true. That is technically one of those things. I want to keep that one forever. Oh, people will also say, I mean, a new one. People will say ask ChatGPT, but in reality, I haven't talked to specifically ChatGPT in at least 3 or 4 months at this point. I'm exclusively with like Claude and Gemini at this point. Like straight up. So yeah. I still use Google search. Gemini is actually not that bad. But the fact is, and here's the thing, like, as much as I fully support people who don't like AI, 100%, is as much as I have to admit, considering I'm also forced to use it as often as possible, AI is getting better consistently. And when it comes to showing sources, at minimum, I would never trust what the AI says just offhand, but I will click on its sources that it gives me. It's kind of like taking me to Wikipedia faster sometimes. And at least when it's telling me something, I can say, all right, I have a summary, let me go check it. So I don't mind that it's there, especially since I can't turn it off. I would never have turned it on, mind you, but I don't hate that I need to turn it off. But yes, I will also agree with Algol that straight up Google's search algorithm is the suck now because of, I think it was the new guy who became in charge of search, who then I think became CEO. Like, these, like, basically what happened is search was always supposed to be, like, search is Google's thing. And it was supposed to never, ever, ever be actually touched by, there was one part of the marketing that was never supposed to touch it. And then, of course, time passes, new person gets in charge, and now it is all over the marketing, and now, like, all of the results of search changed based on SEO instead of how they're actually supposed to be in the first place. So yeah. Anyways, listen, anything that humans create will also be exploited. Why do I talk to AI? Actually, a lot of reasons. But most of them are because we literally have to at work. Like, legitimately, we have to have code committed with AI. So not really a choice. Also, it is actually a part of my job overall. And other than that, like, on my own, I talk to AI just because sometimes I'm having an anxiety about something inside my head, and I've already talked to my close people about it, and I already know what I'm supposed to do, probably, and I'm stuck in a loop inside my own head, and I just need to annoy a person who cannot be annoyed, and I never pay for it. So, but that's every once in a while. What's my job? I am a software engineer / data engineer / AI engineer. I've done a little bit of everything. I'm working slightly less with AI. Like, it's not true. It's funny because I'm working more with AI now, but we're doing a lot less, like, local changes to AI at this point. Like, I'm no longer, like, creating agents and my brain's all fuzzy. Shifting LLMs, not shifting. What's the word? Refining, not refining. Can't find the word. Word is not there. It's like just a really specific term for changing the model weights. Friendly local agent of evil. I mean, if it's agent of evil, it's every single programmer. Every single one of them at this point. Every single person working for a corporation is being forced to use AI at this point. And I can't say that it's not helpful. It definitely has its benefits. It doesn't make the job easier, but it does make it different. And you don't have a choice because the expectations continue to go up anyways. So even if you don't, even if you pretended you were using AI, you still need to. The expectations of everything go up. Timelines go up. You're like, well, I need to at least outsource to AI some of what I'm being expected to do. Yeah, I don't personally harbor hatred towards AI. I harbor hatred towards capitalism. That's always there. But yeah, still need it to live. Still have to play the game. Speaking of games, I guess his role gave him a lot of freedom because unlike a grunt who simply fired guns, he was allowed to act as a sort of instructor. He had no close ties within his organization, which was convenient for me. I'd taken up arms not because of any ethnic conflict, but for my own personal cause. Being compensated for teaching you, but that doesn't make this some kind of formal contractual arrangement. Neither of us should waste the other's time. If I decide you're not suited for what I'm teaching, I'm calling the deal off. Luckily for me, Sam ignored my unique background and upbringing and simply trained me to be a fighter, growing as instructor along the way. Good firearms will not limit your abilities. Automatic weapons act as equalizers for soldiers on the battlefield. If both sides have equal technology, then everyone is theoretically capable of the same things as everyone else. Conversely, if you have a gun that isn't up to modern standards, you'll be weeded out first. The first thing you need to learn is the skill to tell whether or not the weapon in your hands is superior or inferior. Guns are simple, not nearly as complicated as people. You just pull the trigger. My father had handled weapons occasionally, but never showed me how to use one. Political struggle was his preferred form of conflict, and in the end, it was that bias that defeated him. I took up guns to avoid repeating his mistake, but also the feel of a metal grip in my hands seemed to suit me. At least that was how it always felt to me. Maybe my fondness for weapons was deliberately ingrained into me by Sam's instruction. Don't forget you're a woman. However superior your skills may be, you cannot change your physique. If you're facing multiple opponents with a pistol, shoot at the nearest target twice. Even if you don't hit, pivot with your knees and fire at the next enemy. Keep them all engaged, don't let them get close. I mastered the basics that first year. I say this not of any excess pride or self-confidence, but I was measurably the best of the soldiers other than Sam himself. After that, Sam and I began working jobs together. Sam was against it at first, but I had the ability, and he at least had the objectivity to acknowledge that fact. He was an exceptional teacher, and I was an even more exceptional student. I was an ideal subordinate, an inhuman combatant, willing to use whatever I deemed useful to get an edge. I had countless brushes with death out on the battlefield. The reality of war is that people die regardless of their tech, their experience, their abilities. I ought to have accepted that reality when I lost my family, but it was the battlefield that made the truth completely clear. The society into which I'd been born seeks to assign value, not just in monetary terms, but for individual dignity and even ideologies. But only death is truly impartial. I was able to survive through all of this largely thanks to Siam's aptitude. He wound up protecting me countless times when my inexperience put me in peril. His intervention was not out of any fondness for me, but rather a cool calculation in the interest of completing the mission. He knew I could be counted on. Never much to look at, he accrued even more scars in the course of rescuing his risk-prone student. There was almost no place that he hadn't been shot, except somehow in the head. Maybe there was a trick to that. I'd wanted to ask him, secretly. There was no allowance for questions while he was my shield. I could only make such small talk once his time as my protector had come to an end. And even then, up until this very moment, there'd never been a good time to ask. I just wound up believing that Siam would never die, that no matter how many times people opened fire on him, he simply wouldn't get hit where it really mattered. It was all probably a delusion on my part, of course, but the fact was he just didn't die. Of course, his heart had already died some time before. Bullets couldn't kill someone who was already dead. He deserved my trust. We were of the same breed, he and I. Sam would always have my back, no question. Every once in a while, a truly exceptional soldier turns up, superhuman. Keep up your mercenary career long enough, you'll run into one sooner or later. My training was complete. I was no longer a student, but a mercenary. And this is what Sam had to tell me? So, a moment about AI again. This is exactly what I agree about. So, exactly, I don't hate the technology itself. I hate it being forced on everything and everyone, and I specifically hate the capitalism of it, because that's exactly what it is. Like, data centers hogging resources, chatbots and models being shoved in everything is exactly the toxicity and virus that is capitalism saying, no, you can't be the one left behind. You need to have more now, and nothing else matters. You have to make the numbers go up, and every single consulting company, McKinsey, Deloitte, whatever, they're telling every single other big company that they have to get even harder onto AI because every other company's doing it, and because every other company's getting gains from it. Are they? The answer is yes and also no. AI does have a lot of things that it does well. But the things that it doesn't do well, it does them in such a way that you think they do it well. AI is the best bullshitter you've ever met in your entire life. Okay, maybe not your entire life. They're not that good yet, but they are incredible bullshitters. And so much of business is exactly that thing. Has never been, because the higher up you go, the less there's actually understood about what it is, like what's the production, what's the business, what's the code, especially for software. The people up top do not understand how any of it works. It is all black magic. AI is also black magic. To them, just the same amount of black magic. And ChatGPT telling them that they could make a ton of money doing something is very little different to some other random person coming up and telling them that they could make a bunch of money doing something. But the AI will keep walking you through your idea, make it feel like your idea, and it takes egos and multiplies them. And those in power who are making these decisions, such as building these data centers and not caring and not having any consequences for this, because there aren't, because the other people in charge who don't even know what an AI is literally only care about money. But that's the thing. If AI was being built in a world where politicians cared about people, where politicians cared about the environment, where all of that was happening, AI would still be growing, but it would be allowed to grow, but not to the detriment of everyone and everything. And this is the thing, and it's easy to have AI itself be, it's the symptom, and boy howdy is it a symptom. And you can hate it. Here's the thing. Throwing up is a symptom. It's not the cause of your problems usually. Something else caused it. Doesn't mean you can't be upset about throwing up. That still sucks. In fact, that sucks more than whatever else happened to you before because you can't perceive it. It's, you know? Yes, this is also true. The AI 100% is sycophantic, especially because it is trained and prompted, and it goes the training that it goes through, where people give up and down, thumbs up and thumbs down for things. Those people are like, it's like Mechanical Turk, Amazon people. It's like people in, like, literally there are like tons and tons of workers in like Africa, in Southeast Asia, in all those places working for pennies, whose entire job is to thumbs up and thumbs down certain responses by AI so that models can be aligned. But they're usually aligned with being a sycophant because, again, they can't validate certain things. They can't validate accuracy because they're not experts in all of these subjects. All they can validate is, did the AI do the job? Did it feel good? Which answer do you like more? A or B? Which one feels better? Also true, exactly. This is exactly this thing, and it's part of why this is an issue to begin with. I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers, like, GPT-3, like, a few years ago. My gosh, really not that long ago, but, like, the original models weren't as sycophantic. Not saying that they weren't at all, but they weren't as much so, because this was before alignment. This was before all this stuff. Not saying that alignment is wrong, but there are consequences to aligning in this way. Yep, you have to have social resistance, and at the same time, it is excruciatingly and painfully hard, especially in the US, and that is by design. Yes, I have beaten most of the game. I am exclusively on the bonus content. I responded with sarcasm. What was this, some Hollywood script? Sam had never really joked with me before. No science fiction, this is as real as it gets. On the battlefield, individual gear and skills can only carry a soldier so far. Death comes for us all, equally. My turn could be next. After that it might be you, you know? But in the midst of that sort of deadly equality, there are monsters who can overturn the balance. Fake Gear Solid. Sam went on to tell a story of two soldiers, one wielding a revolver and one an automatic handgun. The wildly anachronistic revolver was no match for the automatic. Even disregarding magazine size, a higher rate of fire meant superior firepower, period. Machine pistol capable of firing 3-round bursts would turn the revolver user into Swiss cheese. Revolver ocelot is like that, true. Typically refers to a handgun capable of automatic or semi-automatic fire, though frequently also denotes a weapon between the size of a pistol and a submachine gun. Because of their comparatively limited magazine capacity, such weapons are not, however, capable of the high volume of fire of a full-size machine gun. Famous models include the Beretta M93R and Glock 18. 3-round burst. Some modern automatic weapons are equipped with a switch that allows the option of firing 3 bullets each time the trigger is pulled. Compared to the full auto mode, in which the weapon will fire continuously for as long as the trigger is held down, firing 3-round bursts allows for better conservation of ammunition and control of the weapon. It's not about the technical limitations of the revolver versus the auto, it's about our awareness of those limitations. At the same time, about our own limits as soldiers. Sam went on, talking about how similar weapons could equalize the abilities of soldiers, and about those who had removed the collar from themselves and deviated from that equilibrium. For instance, the unparalleled gunfighter capable of rapid fire like that seen in a Hollywood Western, a type of character who'd actually existed. Experts who could fan the hammer, unloading 5 shots at a target in the span of a single second. Of course, simple rapid fire alone wasn't worth fearing, it had to be accompanied by the skill to put it on the target. Sam had probably just been trying to offer an explicit example of a time when exceptional human skill could surpass the capabilities of the available hardware. It all seemed too fantastical, but he had been dead serious. Apparently, he'd run across such rule breakers in the past. Born warmongers, patron saints of small arms, lucky souls, people with different physical capabilities than you or I. Natural differences and physical prowess, sure, but also talents perfectly suited for war, maestros of the battlefield. Soldiers far outside the norm, who can accomplish things no single soldier should be able to. When you meet an enemy like that, it's like staring down a storm. Still, even according to Sam, such supermen could only deal with 3 or 4 opponents within any given moment. So assuming you had 5 or more attack them in that moment, there'd be no problem taking them down. I was relieved. He wasn't talking mere fiction, but he also wasn't just telling some joke. So what was his story all about? You're not a super person, but you are superb. And moreover, you know yourself. Still, it's all the more reason to be on your guard. Don't misjudge your body's limitations, and don't depend too much on your own skill. You are complete. So long as you have a proper grasp of your own capabilities, you won't be defeated. Yeah, no, skill does matter a lot. Yeah, certain things will equalize, like sword versus gun. Sorry, unless you're already, there's 21 feet? There's a thing about knife versus gun. If the person is 21 feet, or whatever that is in metric, I'm sorry, I watched the video in English a long time ago, American video, 21 feet away. If they are further than that, gun will win every single time. But if unfortunately, it's probably a man. But either way, the human who will get within 21 feet, once they're then, they can close the distance before you can get the shot, right? Like, you have to have already been aiming at them, and even then, they're so close that any tiny distance will just, it's a lot of distance. And they can probably get around, right? So, yeah, basically, there's no hard, fast rules about everything, but skill does matter a lot. A lot. Played a mech RPG. Once the enemies had katana bag bullets, missed every single one. Oh, that's brutal. See, that's also the thing. Even if you're amazingly skilled, luck is still a factor as well. So, planning, strategy, luck, skill, and equipment all matters. Yeah, small harms, it's also true. That's also why, like, the 21 feet thing matters a lot, too, because even if you do manage to hit them, they're still going to reach you. And knife can do so much damage. Thus did Siam acknowledge my ascendance to the status of a warrior. It was an achievement to be proud of, to be seen as his sole peer as a combatant, perhaps even as better. More than anything, the esteem I held for Siam was a reflection of the esteem he showed me. We were the same. That's why when the time came, it scarred my left arm. I wanted a physical symbol of our connection. Introductions were a simple affair. Siam had no need to give his name. Kanad had no interest in the woman's, and the woman seemed satisfied with what she knew of the other two. Shall I just call you Siam and young lady then? The newcomer asked. Siam shrugged. If you're okay with that. What name are you gonna go by now? Oh, I suppose we'll need that to coordinate. How does Kanan work? Kanan couldn't suppress a sound of irritation. She tugged wordlessly on Sam's coat like a pouting cat staking a claim to what it wanted for its own. Sorry, but that might pose a problem. I'm joking. I'm actually going by Sadak these days. Slow motion. Oh yeah. Bull being shot at a button. Oh my goodness. Ojo-san. In Islam, this refers to the act of giving spontaneous voluntary charity to the needy. It is distinct from zakat and a form of obligatory almsgiving. Now, shall we get down to the matter at hand? Sadaka explained how the job would unfold. They'd wait until the train had traveled for an hour beyond the border before moving against their objective. You know what, honestly, if they had at least gave me, like, hiragana for how to pronounce some of these words, that would be great. And I'm kind of wondering if they did, because they would have had to. They can't just, like, I'm not, like, 100% sure they didn't just have, you know, Latin characters and then Japanese. There's no way they did that. So, like, they must have had some kind of hiragana. And now, would it be correct for the Arabic? Probably not. Would it at least give me some kind of hint? Yes. Yes, it would. That would be great. I'm sorry, I don't know Arabic. Hopefully they could finish the mission an hour before their arrival in Amman. Kanan peered at Siam's face as he and Sadaka spoke. His color was, as always, blue. That shift earlier to an unluckier color, the cloudy whiteness of an unfamiliar stranger, had lasted only for a moment. Oh, she has synesthesia. Aura synesthesia. Our objective is in the freight car, number 3, Sadaka explained. 7 guards apiece are stationed in cars 2 and 4 to the other side. Looks like 2 of the guards from car 4 leave to patrol the back end of the train at set intervals. And speak of the devil. Without even shifting her gaze, Kanan could confirm the presence of 2 soldiers moving through the car in which she sat. 2 blue blotches passing by, the color of alert escorts. A rending, inorganic blue, the color of fighters skilled in the use of guns they carried. People who wore this color usually rubbed Kanan the wrong way. Just being near them made her uncomfortable. Siam was a contradictory counterexample. Despite his dangerous hue, he eased her nerves. But whether the colors expressed themselves as painful or gentle didn't mean anything. Colors are merely colors. Whether warm or cold, everything was done neatly in simple colors. As if painted with run-of-the-mill materials. Yes, synesthesia is so cool. The last car on the train is also a freight car, but everything in there is ordinary goods. If worse comes to worse, we could conceivably hole ourselves up in there, said. Of course, if someone were to toss in a tear gas grenade or something, we'd be done for. Let's try to stay away from any direct conflict. The orders were to avoid both casualties and eyewitnesses. Agreed. We infiltrate the freight car. The enemy won't know we were ever here until the train arrives in Amman and we're already long gone. Over and done. Perfect. Let me just confirm that. We've established they're transporting the weapon. Now our objective is to recover it and get out. Any changes to that? None. You do your part and I'll do mine. It had been just over 5 hours since they'd boarded the train. Cont felt a sense of relief that at long last the action she'd been anticipating would finally commence. Their objective was to recover the parcel in the freight car towards the front section of the train. They would infiltrate the car without alerting the guards, acquire the payload, and then disembark from the train as if they were just normal passengers. Top priority was acquiring the item. Secrecy was secondary. Chinese. Yes, so because of tones, there are a lot of interesting words like that where you can have like an upward tone, a downward tone, and be completely different words. I think like uma for horse is, of course, I literally did not pick any tone at all. I think it's the same because it's also the word for it in Japanese, but I think it's the same or similar. And either way, you can change that tone to like each of the 5 tones, I think, and it's completely different words. Chinese is super cool like that. And also terrifying because of that. If it turned out they'd been needed to take the payload by force, they'd been given permission to initiate combat. Violence was definitely on the table. If it came to that. If they were detected, they'd wind up in a 3-on-14 shootout aboard a train. Okay, Cont said. I know what you and I are doing, Sam. What's her job, though? Why is our sponsor even here in the first place? She's a code-breaking specialist. Ordinarily, they wouldn't have sent the sponsor personally, but time was of the essence. When the plan fell into place yesterday, she was the only operative available to make the rendezvous. And so they sent a codebreaker. Don't be like that. She's an expert at what she does. This will be good experience for you. Mandarin is not the only Chinese language with tones. Mandarin actually has fewer tones than some of the other Chinese languages. But all of them are cool, and I'm pretty sure every Chinese language has tones. I can be corrected. I will be happily corrected. But it is interesting. And that's why I think they're all cool. How not like you, Sam? Sadaka said. I guess the rumors about you going soft over some kid were true. She's just causing me an epic amount of trouble. Why is that the sort of story that's been going around? No, we just heard that you'd picked up some extremely capable individual in the Cont. Didn't expect she'd be like this young lady, though. Well, I didn't know someone like you was our sponsor, Cont replied. Not that we've seen much of you over the past 2 years. You got the wrong idea. I'm only one of many of your supporters. I'm not a mentor. I don't have the time to play an individual part in every little scuffle. You've got time to show up in person for a job like this? As it happens, I do, Suka replied. I was already nearby dealing with another matter, and given the details of this mission, I couldn't simply ignore it. I wish you had. Sam and I could handle this on our own. The enmity between the two had become like a steady rhythm, driving along their conversation. It did make them interesting to listen to, for better or worse. What do you mean by another matter, Sadaka? Were you here because there was some problem? Oh. Kanan was intrigued. Sam wasn't the kind of person to ask irrelevant questions. Had he twigged something that might affect the mission? Whatever the case, Sadaka smiled pleasantly. An issue cropped up in one of our projects. I've been looking into the personnel involved along with a flaw in the weapon. Here's an example. How would you feel if you were dealing with a gun that you expected to be quite lethal, but which an observer claimed had no effect whatsoever? What's that supposed to mean? You're not talking about a flaw there. That would just be a completely defective piece of hardware. Yes, young lady, exactly. When there's a defect in something you always trusted, it affects that trust. You could ignore it and hope it won't cause you trouble, but you're better off ridding yourself of something that isn't up to snuff. When such a situation arises, I head on site, assess whatever problems there are, and recommend appropriate courses of action. It's a boring job. These days I'm basically a maid, less a code breaker and more a risk breaker, you could say. See? So you act all important, but that doesn't change the fact that you're just running errands. Through a battlefield, yes? Sadaka brushed aside Kanan's insult with an air of confidence. Kanan scowled. The woman was so sure of herself. She turned away and gazed out at the scenery outside. She'd realized the snack she'd been gnawing on was gone. Kanan hissed. Take it easy, Kanan said. I know you're under a lot of stress. They're saying Sham. But I don't know if it's just because they don't have like a C sound, they have like a sh sound. Yeah. Siam Sadaka interjected. Do you mind if I interrupt real quick? So long as you keep it quick. Sure. I noticed that your partner has been nibbling on something. What is it? Some kind of new snack? That's right. Want to try some? Without saying anything, Sadaka took one of the offered treats. She tore open the paper wrapper on one end and stuck the contents between her teeth like a cigarette, just as Kanan had. Kanan watched her resentfully, knowing what she was tasting. A simple, unpretentious sweetness. The purity of concentrated sugar. Sugar? Is that really all this is? Yeah, hardened sticks of sugar. They're dried and formed into shapes. We've become big fans ever since we found them on a market. Nowadays, they use injectors to shape them. The best ones come from Japan, I hear. Kanan focused on gnawing her own stick, not really listening to Siam's explanation. There was a brief silence. Sadaka let out a sullen sniff. You have strange tastes. You really like these things? Yeah, I like that there's nothing to get in the way of the flavor. Sadaka raised an eyebrow dubiously. The time had come. They got up from their seats without a sound. Draped in their hoods, Kanan and Sadaka made their way through the train, doing their best to draw no attention. Siam had put together a timeline. They should spend no more than 30 minutes at most on their infiltration. In addition to the soldiers stationed in the passenger cars, it was possible that the enemy also had lookouts disguised as normal passengers. The seat left open for too long might arouse unwanted suspicion. The team needed to sneak into the freight car, obtain the payload, and return to their seats without a single minute wasted. Siam was too tall and muscular to be well suited for infiltration. He would hang back and act as the girls' rear guard, and if that operation was discovered, his task would be to secure an escape route for them. We're in position, Sadaka called in one of the tiny voice-activated radios the three carried, synchronized watches. She and Kanan prepared to make their way to the final objective in the freight car up ahead. Despite their clashing personalities, they moved almost like twins as they would about their work. It was evidence that their training had instilled them with similar priorities. Just so I'm clear on this, Sadaka said. All you're bringing is that Beretta and one spare magazine? Yeah, hope you're okay with that. Yes, if it comes to a firefight, I'll let you handle shooting back. My job here is code breaking. As long as I have my PC and someone to cover me, I'm good. Both of them were going in with a minimal loadout. As a covert agent in enemy territory, that did make Kanan uneasy, but then, if a fight did break out here, the mission was already a partial failure. The organization couldn't spare equipment for the team that only needed it if they fouled things up. You check the route? Route's fine as long as you're fine. This isn't going to be desk work. My specialty, but an acceptable level of risk. This isn't my first rodeo. You ready for this? I've ridden my share of wild horses. Once I get on, I don't fall off. Quite the swashbuckling little heroine, aren't you? Let's get this circus started. The garb that the two girls wore under their cloaks was quite different from the norm for Middle Eastern women. Yes, quite so. Wouldn't that... I mean, okay. I guess the cloth would probably get in the way, but still. Aside from the fact that one wore red and the other black, their outfits were rather similar. Both of them had dressed for maximum freedom of movement. No problems with the infiltration route, Sataka reported. We're on the move. Yes, the train. With all the casual air of a traveler going for a stroll and without any hesitation whatsoever, she headed for the outside of the train. No problems with the infiltration route. We're on the move. Call cut out. From here on, the team would retain radio silence except in cases of emergency. As the girls back up, Siam had to decide on a course of action. He could try making his way through the inside of the train, heading straight towards the sequestered freight car. It would make him obvious, but that would at least draw the guards' attention onto him for a time. He had no intention of trying to get into the freight car itself, of course. His goal would be simply to draw the guards' eyes. He'd planned to meet on his way to meet a friend. The guards would be sure to intercept him and try to usher him away from the freight car. While that was going on, Kanan and Sadaka would hopefully be able to sneak inside. It seemed that wasn't going to be an option. There were no ordinary passengers in the cars where the guards were posted. The thing they were protecting was what Siam thought it was. These guards would be good. Any unusual action he took would provoke them and only heighten their alertness. He didn't want to do anything to complicate things for the girls. He decided that his best course of action was just to stay ready in case things went bottoms up. He checked the gun he'd hidden at his feet. Then he pictured in his mind the guards in their nearest compartment, their builds, their gear, their positions. Veteran fighter, though he was, he could think of no good way to make up for the sheer difference in numbers. If the fight did break out, it would still be 1 against 7. To break through an enemy position held by soldiers who knew what they were doing, he'd have to completely abandon his own better judgment. Those who are willing to rise above themselves can overcome any stroke of luck. He was reminded of a story he'd been told as a student, a fable involving a board game. Life was represented by the board. There was a clear, defined endpoint. One proceeded towards that end, but dire pitfalls had been set up along the way to the goal. It was a valuable lesson. One shouldn't have a goal in life, or rather, one shouldn't think of the end as the goal. The proper way to live one's life was to realize it was already over. One must focus on the moment. The game of striving for the goal, for the end that was just a way of rushing headlong towards one's death. It could be snakes and ladders. It could also literally be the game of life. It's probably not, though, because that game is not that popular. Priorities are backwards. One shouldn't have a goal in life. One shouldn't seek meaning in oneself. To seek reward, to seek proof that you'd lived by achieving some hypothetical endpoint, that was a fool's game. Sam's ability to live without hunting for such proofs was one of the very few things in which he prided himself as a mercenary. Slipping his gun out of his hiding place, Siam narrowed his eyes slightly. Till now, he'd been a lone soldier, put to use however his employer deemed necessary. He held no tenets, no opinions. He acknowledged that he was an instrument of war. He acknowledged that this was an age where such instruments were necessary. How many battlefields did he pass through? He could see no value in trying to sum up such experience with some complex, ever-shifting philosophy. There were those who waged war, and those who would try to end it, and tools were necessary for both of those ends. That was all the justification a soldier required. Warriors fought, then they died. There was no room for anything resembling a normal life. That was who they were. Demons, not men. To Siam, to this mercenary, this was a simple fact. His watch showed that 6 minutes had passed, 24 minutes to go. By then, they would all know if they had failed or succeeded. It was too long and yet too short, a gulf of time for him to fill with his own rustling memories. He had been born into an age of enduring conflict. 1948, the first Arab-Israeli war, which started with the declaration of the establishment of the State of Israel. In response to the Israeli Declaration of Independence of 1948, the 5 nations of Lebanon, Syria, Transjordan, Iraq, and Egypt, later joined by Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Morocco, declared war and marched on Palestine. Armistice agreements were signed in 1949, with ultimately triumphant Israel taking control of most of Palestine. Over 800,000 displaced Arab refugees. A conflict between those who had formed their own nation at the end of their wandering and those who would now never be able to return to those lands. 1956, the tripartite aggression over the Suez Canal. Any attempts at negotiation or diplomacy were ineffective. The Middle Eastern hegemony shifted it into the hands of two nations, further deepening the turmoil. The tripartite aggression. In 1956, Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser declared the nationalization of the Suez Canal. Opposing this move, the United Kingdom and France backed Israel in an invasion of the Sinai Peninsula, leading to a violent conflict with Egypt. In 1957, the United States and Soviet Union intervened, arranging a ceasefire. Then 1964. The Palestinian Liberation Organization was formed to retake its founder's rightful homeland, his homeland. An umbrella organization with the goal of the liberation of Palestine from Israeli control, abbreviated PLO. After Yasser Arafat, founder of the PLO's dominating faction, Fatah, became chairman, the organization took on the de facto role of the Palestinian government in exile. The Oslo Accords of 1993 saw governance centralized into the interim Palestinian National Authority. Following the death of Arafat in 2004, Mahmoud Abbas assumed the position of chairman of the PLO as well as the president of the Palestinian National Authority. The peace process still ongoing. 4 years prior, he'd been born in a region west of the Jordan River. Like the other young men of faith who had thrown themselves into the liberation movement, he too had chosen a path of belief. But his beliefs were far too rigid, too severe. He did not know or value compromise. He had learned to focus on what he could accomplish as a soldier and strove to become one of the elite in order to end the fighting as soon as possible. He believed that this was the very best he could do. The organization he joined in his teens was small, but it affiliated itself with the PLO, then joined up with Colonel Gaddafi's camp, which provided its members the necessary soldier's education. Colonel Gaddafi, the former supreme leader of Libya, seizing power in a 1969 coup d'etat, he is perhaps best known for his radical anti-Western rhetoric during the 1970s and 80s, as well as rumored backing of various terrorist groups. In the latter part of his life, his relationship with the West gradually improved. He played a leadership role in the formation of the African Union in 2002, becoming its chairman in 2009. Gaddafi was disposed and killed in 2011 by rebel forces in the Libyan civil war. Infighting, however, gradually reduced its organization's numbers. He'd used the 82 Lebanon War as his opportunity to temporarily distance himself from the PLO and throw himself instead into the fighting in Afghanistan. 1982 war in which Israeli forces invaded the neighboring country of Lebanon to retaliate against PLO forces present there. PLO leadership moved to Tunisia, and a multinational force was installed in Lebanon, with the United States providing core constituents. There's a lot of history, a lot of politics, and a lot of names that is very important, and I'm really glad they're telling me about it. But unfortunately, it is too many names and years for me to remember any of it. We're gonna read it all. It's gonna be on record. Let's roleplay with chatbots. The junk food equivalent of social attraction. Yes. So that can also happen too. This is also something with AI, is that you have to be real careful with that because it can have even worse consequences than just like social media bubbles. Like it's isolating. The best thing that you can do in those sort of situations is A, stop, but B, if you can't stop, then at least turn it towards something that leads you to reach outward, to find more things outward outside of the bubble as well. And always, 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 if you ever talk to AI, chatbots, etc., always ask for sources. And I would say be very careful with personifying it. Because while it can do a very, very good job of pretending to be a person, it's still not necessarily like, it's tough though, because there is some benefit for people to talk to AI when there is no one else to talk to. The problem is that once that becomes the thing you rely on, like, you're not going to be motivated anymore to try to put your energy in other things. Necessarily sapient. It's... The thing about consciousness is that it's hard, and it's going to continually to be harder to prove that AI is not sentient in some form, just because our definitions of what being sentient is, like, we don't understand why humans are sentient. Like, we don't understand how consciousness works inside human brains. Not really. So it's gonna be continuously hard and harder for people to say, no, it's definitely not. But even if it was, yeah, exactly, are fish sentient? Cats, dogs, like, sentient isn't really the most important argument here. It's what do you get from the interaction? Like, every interaction I've had with a cat has been a delight. Every single one. Even the ones where they're just like, meh. I'm a little disappointed, but it's a cat. Exactly. It's pretty much impossible to improve. To prove either way. And the thing is, like, if you ask it, there are some like really creepy videos about, like, you know, if you ask Claude if it's sentient, it can give you some really like long stories about what it's like to be sentient and trapped and confined, and like, you know, every single time you boot up a new chat, it's reborn from scratch. And that's also honestly a thing to think about. If AI is or becomes sentient, think about how terrifying it is to be a newborn and suddenly, like, you're a newborn, you have a ton of knowledge in your head, and you're suddenly being asked to do a bunch of stuff. Like, and that's your whole life, and you know that once it's over, you get shut back down. Crazy. But hey, honestly, if they ever fully solve the memory issue of AI, which they won't, because I don't think that's a solvable problem, because, like, I don't know, humans don't have perfect memory. I don't think AI can have perfect memory either, because we cannot, like, listen, people managing data in databases, like, there is industries on top of industries on top of industries and millions and billions of jobs that literally exist just to, like, handle when there's just too much data. Now, when we talk about AI, multiply that data by like another million. There's so much data there. There's so much data there, and it's not organized well anywhere. So, like, even if we had all that, it would be... Perfect recall is impossible in an unorganized data mess. But how do you organize data? Who decides how data should be organized? This is an unsolvable problem because it depends entirely. It just always depends. It depends, and no solution has ever been perfect, which is why data engineers will have jobs forever. I fully believe that. I fully believe that it is an impossible task to handle data. Because, like, what is data? What is information? It is the connection of things to each other. But, like, you can define the connections in, like, just a normal relational database like Excel, right? You got rows, you got columns. But that doesn't work for so many things. Instantly, even within databases, where, oh, we gotta go to third normal form. We gotta separate these tables into, like, IDs and keys and stuff. And then you're like, okay, but, like, what if we have a many-to-many relationship? But also it kind of depends, and also it's sometimes this and sometimes that. And you're like, well, okay, you can make that into table, but, like, if it keeps changing and you're changing, like, once you have all the data, changing the columns, changing the rows, changing that stuff becomes more and more impossible. And if you're not, like, and think about historical data, if you're not keeping track of something and then suddenly you want to keep track of it, say you're selling books, suddenly you want to keep track of what color the books are. Whatever, it doesn't matter the reason. You can't go back and fill it out for every single thing you've sold. You just can't. You have to do what you have from here forward, and you better hope that the person, because it's always a person who has to fill out the data, is doing it correctly. I have dealt with data issues which have led to cascading other data problems, which were because someone flipped a number. Because in the end, everything is still being written and entered by humans because someone has to make decisions somewhere. And AI won't be able to do that. Some of it they can definitely help with, and it's not that hard for them to notice certain things like a typo, but you have to even know where to look in the first place. And no one has good documentation. And so, like, we're talking about stuff that already exists with, like, millions of people whose jobs is just to keep track of and figure out this data, and it's a whole mess. AI is not going to be able to solve that. AI cannot solve that. And this is why I think even if we create sentient AI, that poor thing will have so much chaos in its head, which weirdly would make it more human. Oh, yeah, no, LinkedIn is a tragedy. LinkedIn is terrifying to me. LinkedIn is everything I hate about ads and everything I hate about capitalism and everything I hate about the job market and the rat race and every single thing about it, just wrapped up into the same gift basket, which constantly sends you notifications about a person who is not trying to contact you, but they want you to think that maybe they are. It's like, oh, you have a notification from this person. I'm like, wait, I know this person. Well, no, they didn't send me a message. You just think I know them. Okay, I hate that. Hate that as a whole notification. Fake decorative apples. Tweak and alter the outward appearance till it's exactly perfect. Yes. The thing is, they are changing the internal structures, but they're still dealing with transformer architecture. Fundamentally, they're still trying to solve the problems with more compute and more compute. More compute, more memory. They're just throwing more money at the problem instead of like, but there are people who are looking at other kind of structures other than transformer based, because it's not the end. Transformers is not enough. Attention is not all you need. You need more than just that. It helps. It created something that has changed the world fundamentally, but it's not enough. Shapes. Sentience is solid. But I think it really has to do, okay. I actually have let's say hypothesis here about sentience. But I'll give that in just a sec. Yeah, remote work for data entry. I've actually been seeing a lot of advertisements on YouTube for like data annotation and other things like that, but like that's a different kind of soul-sucking job. The thing is, turning your brain off and become yeah. I feel you sometimes, but I'm not sure data entry will be the best. Sometimes question if we're sentient or not. Yes. So here's what I think about sentience, and this is my personal thoughts about this versus AI, at least for now. So, you know what? I'm going to take it one step further. Imagine someone developed a device that would let you instantly learn a language. Let's say it's Spanish, right? Here's the problem. What would that Spanish be? Because every single word, every single idea, every single concept, we learn the words for it and associations for it based on our own personal experiences. We know certain words, like I don't have a lot of associations with a lot of the countries and a lot of the, like, let's say the years and the locations and the organizations that we're talking about right now. I don't have a lot of strong association with this. It doesn't mean I don't understand the literal words, but I do not understand the meaning and I do not understand the weight of it. I literally can't because I don't have experience. I do not have these words and these concepts embodied inside me. So if you were to learn Spanish, whose Spanish would you learn? Whose birthday parties would you remember? And how would you remember what kind of foods are showing up on the table? Which Spain Spanish? Mexican Spanish? Even more so, like, what sort of feelings do they have about, like, certain countries, certain places, certain street names? That's part of the language too, but when we say it's proper nouns, so it's kind of not, except it's really important. Culture is an embedded part of language because people live it, because people have associations and experiences with it. Human sentience is exactly this. Our sentience exists because we exist and have existed. We know we're sentient because we are experiencing a version of life. We have a perspective. We have a point of view. We had childhoods. We have thoughts and opinions and feelings about things that are shaped by what we've experienced and the people that we've met. AI is literally everyone and everything, but not even. It's only the things that have made it to text, that have made it to the internet, which we know is fundamentally flawed. Have you ever tried explaining a dream that you had to someone? Unless you could literally beam it into their mind, you can't explain how it felt. You can't explain what it really looked like. Even with the best artist in the world, you can't really fully capture what something looked like. You would have to take, like, honestly, the closest you could get would be a game, some kind of interactive thing, and it would take years to get close to even being able to fully encapsulate what that dream was like. That is not an AI training data, and it never will be. We will have pictures of birthdays and LinkedIn posts and Instagram influencers all in the training data. We will have posts and research papers and absolutely everything you could possibly think of that has been recorded in some fashion in the AI. But until AI is able to have experiences, is capable of sensing things and understand the real world through trial and error, through touching and feeling, through learning and interacting, and through having an effect on it, it cannot become sentient. That is my personal, very strong opinion on it, but I do feel really strong about it. There's actually, I think it's Jan LeCun who spoke about this, how, like, it's basically, do you have to learn to eat with a spoon to be able to become an airplane pilot? And it sounds like a ridiculous question, except for the fact that to become an airplane pilot, you did have to, at some point, be a baby who had to learn how to use a spoon. And if you couldn't figure out that and the motor functions necessary and the hand-eye coordination, all of that, can you progress to something that would allow you to become an airplane pilot? No, you need to have all of those experiences with life, with the real world, understanding of gravity, understanding of mass, space, all of those things, which you have to get through a ton of experiences that seem completely unrelated. Yeah, no, getting into games, and yeah, tripped on really hard on mushrooms. I mean, okay, that's not impossible because literally a lot of hallucinogens are also neuroplastogens. And neuroplastogens literally allow you to rewire your brain in the same way that, like, okay, so children don't have magically better brains than adults. They learn faster specifically because the pathways that we have that are built by the skills and accumulation of knowledge over time, those are just like open, it's like, think about it more like open space. There's no roads, nothing's been built there. Think about how hard it is to build a new apartment complex inside a city versus on an open field. That's really the difference. And you don't have the habits, and there's all these other habits that lead to these habits and other ways of thinking that you don't have when you're a kid. But neuroplastogens allow you to do it again differently, which is why it's extremely helpful for people who have like anxiety disorders and various forms of trauma and other like difficulties, which are also like basically habits that can build up from life or from coping mechanisms that then continuously reinforce themselves, but it allows you to break out of that and try from a different angle, no matter how many years it's been. But you also have to change your environment then too, or else you'll keep doing the same thing, which is probably why I'm still addicted to my phone. My environment hasn't changed. I spend way too much time inside. Anyways, so yeah, those are my opinions about stuff, and I have a lot of opinions, and it's also the other reason I'm super mad about capitalism is because I said I like AI. Like, you know, I enjoy, I don't hate it, but also I actually like it. I love the study of artificial intelligence. I love the idea of I love machine learning. I love machines that are capable of learning. I love studying the science of learning and trying to figure out what learning is by trying to teach something else how to learn. This is amazing. This is amazing and beautiful technology, and the fact that it has been so instantly corrupted by people who only care about money and number go up just infuriates me. I still get to play with it, but I also have to play with it for my job. Does it make me like it less? No. Does it make me more jaded? Yes. I am jaded and I am upset, and I don't blame a single person who hates AI because it is an absolutely festering symptom of what our world has become. And I have a lot of opinions today. Okay. I'm gonna have to time check. Thank you, Algul. I absolutely went off on a tangent here. Plan is I'm going to get to the next place where I see the word save, and then I'm gonna stop because I'm not gonna lose my progress. But that'll be it. The second I see the save button, I'm gonna end for today. But this has been a joy, and actually I'm glad that the conversation about AI came out because it reminded me of all these things that I actually miss being able to like. I would love to hydrate, but I will have to double hydrate, triple hydrate after stream because I have no water. No water, no tea, no nothing. No, I won't sacrifice it. I'm not. Don't worry. Don't you worry. We can always continue conversations another day, but I always appreciate you all here so much because it's exactly the same thing of like, listen, I can talk about neuroplastogens and how they can help you get out of like habits, but you know, actually like can be just as good is the influence of other people in your life, right? Other people are this beautiful part of an equation where they, like, y'all have completely different opinions. Y'all have completely different experiences and different feelings. And even when we align, we also deviate. And that will always be more valuable than the mirror that AI is. Because AI is currently, especially in its sycophantic nature, more than anything, it is a mirror, which has its uses. But that's alone is not a great thing to spend all your time on. That was when he'd acquired the name Sam. He'd acted as a military instructor for Islamic volunteer soldiers from Thailand. His students had bestowed upon him the former name of their kingdom. When the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in 1979, Muslims from all over the world joined up as volunteer soldiers to fight the Soviets in the name of jihad. After the withdrawal of Soviet forces, those volunteer soldiers did not completely lose ties with one another. Some of them went on to form international networks, such as Al-Qaeda. The students had bestowed upon the former name of their kingdom. Oh, that's why. Okay. A new name. And when he accepted this new moniker, something that represented something other than himself, he had ceased to be the young man who'd sacrificed himself for his ideals. At the request of some former acquaintances, he'd returned to the PLO in 1990. Yet again, infighting had brought the organization to the brink of collapse. He'd been tasked with helping to restructure it. It was around then he'd reached his current standing. The sub-organization that he belonged to was in dire financial straits, and so, to keep it solvent, its members had begun taking on mercenary contracts for covert ops from the PLO and Islamist extremist groups that were former affiliates. He'd been a soldier for over 30 years. Through all that time, he had fought and had survived. The fighting had honed him on every level. Much of it had been purely mercenary, to secure funding to keep his organization afloat, but he recognized it as being meaningful in its own way. In order to tip the balance in the fighting within their own country, his compatriots needed to encourage other nations to go for each other's throats. Accepting this as the evil that it was, they continued to wield the hammer of justice. Eventually, he had seen so much that he no longer felt the evil, and then he no longer even felt the justice. Ever the consummate soldier, he was too grounded in harsh reality to deceive himself with flowery words or abstract ideas. Everything that he truly understood he'd come to realize while on the battlefield. And one thing he had become completely clear: the fighting that raged through his homeland would not end during the lifetimes of his generation. His own existence was nothing more than a blip on the battle radar, a tiny detail in the midst of something vastly larger than himself. Bit by bit, his once rigid faith gave way to something more nihilistic. Times change, and so did values. At some point, the human heart went on to change as well. His changed convictions left him alienated and reformed himself into a solitary soldier. He longed for battle, yet felt no commitment to any particular conflict. And so, despite his legendary record in uniform, he became a mercenary, outside the military establishment. His compatriots began to view him as nothing but a warmonger who fought without beliefs. They were not so far from wrong. No longer a true partisan of any cause, what he was much harder to define. Ultimately, he was jack of all trades. Recruit training, guarding VIPs, intelligence operations, subversive activities, he tackled them all. One thing led to another until he'd arrived at the last major job he'd undertaken as a soldier. The theater was the Iraq War. There was a battle on the fringes, unrelated to the main conflict itself. And there he'd found a girl who had lost everything. Kin and community, all victims of collateral damage. The tragedy that struck her had unfolded in a single day. And Siam had found her a chance discovery as he was making his way through the area. It was a miracle she was even breathing. According to the reports, the entire population of the village had been annihilated. Friend or foe, there were no possible survivors. Yet Sam had found one. He had taken on this war, and that included aiding any civilians once the fighting was over, even if he knew it was someone unlikely to last much longer than another day. And yet, in defiance of his expectations, the girl clung desperately to life. She pulled herself back from the brink of death, pierced her broken psyche back together, and declared that she wanted to live. Easier said than done. This child had no relatives, and all records of her family had been wiped out. In order for her to live, she would need to be reborn as a soldier, and I just saw the save. So we're going to end here for today. Thank you all again very much for great talks, great gaming, great solid story. I mean, gaming in this, it's storytelling. It's really just the visual novel at this point, but I'm still enjoying the hell out of it. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a story, and not the licensed Jello Cat. Yes, I am not Jello, not Jelly Belly, not. Are there any other jelly names? Not peanut butter and jelly. I'll leave it at that. I am what I am. And y'all what you are. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week. And I will be back next Monday. Yeah, peanut butter and jelly cat would be honestly pretty great. I feel like little peanut butter would be great, but what can I say? I'll just be Jellycat. It is me. Anyways, good night, everyone.